What's up, you guys? It's your boy Miguel, fellow Xray Tech peep here, giving you a daily dose of radiation. And today, since I work at a level 3 trauma hospital, and we get students now, and this is my first time actually being on the other side and having students come in. So I've been working for about a year, and I have now, for the first time, the next wave of generation of student techs, even from my school, will come in there. And it's interesting to see how, from the beginner for the first year to the second year, how they'll act and how they do stuff. And it kind of makes you think back of when you were a student tech and how some of the obstacles. So the biggest mistake I've seen, at least amongst the first year students, and I talk about that first week when you're all nervous and you don't want to do anything, you touch, like, most of them will be very like the quicker you go in there and you start messing with the tube, or you try to do just even the simple chest x-ray, the more quicker you kind of jump into that, the faster like everything will kind of like click. And for me, it didn't take that long. It was just like one day. Like that first day, I was just strictly just watching, and yet by the second day of clinicals, I was being hand on. But there's a bunch of students that I've seen, like it takes them really long because they're kind of afraid of stuff. That's kind of, I'm like, if you just get in there, you're not gonna get hurt. We're watching you. So I feel like you kind of get dip your toes in there more and be observant and ask questions. I feel like a bunch of these, they don't ask as much questions, and like yeah, because and there'll be some of them that they'll go in there, try to do just like try to straight on hands on, and they'll have the attitude of, well, I know what I'm doing, I already learned it in lab, and they'll get in there, and some will perform, and you're like, well, you're like a second year student, you're killing it. Other ones, they'll do it and they'll mess up, and then you kind of have to go in there and help them. So another thing I've observed is like for the second year students, like even though we tell them it's kind of like a job interview, the whole thing, and that's how I took it, some of them will go and approach it as, oh, we'll already have this X-ray comp or this X-ray proficiencies. Well, I don't have to do it. So, like, in theory, you don't have to do it, but it kind of makes you look bad and lazy because, like, I've told some of them, I'm like, okay, sometimes ribs or like a skull or something like not chest X-ray will come in, and like they'll be like, no, I'm good, I don't want to do it, or I just don't want to do it. And I look at them and I'll be like, like when you start working, it's not like you can just pick and choose, be like, no, I'm not gonna do it. Like you just have to do it. Maybe you don't like doing it, or maybe you're not skilled at doing it, or maybe you need some help from your other tech friends, but you kind of just have to do it. It's literally like you don't have a choice. So some of that I wish some of the, because they kind of like makes you like, oh, you're only picking and choosing the easy ones, or just you kind of giving that lazy vibe. What else? A lot of them, from what I've seen, more with this like technology based, I guess, like to be on their phones a lot. Which certain places you're not allowed at all. Other ones will give you a little bit of slack, but when it kind of like affects patient care, or like it makes you like not wanting to do exams or do because you're so busy on your phone. Which, don't get me wrong, if you're logging exams or doing other stuff like that, I totally understand. But other times they're just like playing on their phones, or they're on Facebook or their Instagram. There's stuff to do, which, once again, I know you're not getting paid for it, you're not doing all that, but it kind of gives you like, okay, look what I'm doing now. If I work and get hired, this is kind of the same energy kind of vibe you're getting. Maybe for some people it's not, but it kind of gives you, and believe it or not, the managers and other techs, it wasn't until I actually became a tech that I noticed that they'll communicate with the supervisor or like the lead tech there, and they'll talk about certain students and what they're slacking and all that, and they'll find out and they'll know, and then they kind of get a gesture of like, oh, well, he's maybe a potential hire if for future if everything goes well, and like pay attention to a lot of stuff, especially the way you vibe and you communicate with the text too. That kind of gives, because if like no one likes you, you're all mean and you're kind of like that student who thinks he knows it all, and you're gotta get humbled too, because then no one will want to work for you if you become student. Because if you do end up getting hired and you're working there, people won't like you because they already knew kind of how you were as a student, and if you kind of keep that same energy and you weren't exactly the most liked, kind of like it's not gonna go too well as far as like getting help or stuff like that. But yeah, see you in the next one.